Before we dive into today's episode, I have something truly special to share. Next September, I'll be leading an intimate women's retreat through the south of France and northern Italy, and you're invited. Picture this: mornings exploring the colorful markets of the French Riviera, afternoons sipping wine, and a hotel view with golden Mediterranean sunsets. Whether you love photography, food, or just want to reconnect with your playful creative self, this trip is designed for you. Spots are limited, so if all this sounds like your kind of adventure, please visit tourwithabsolutely.com and look for the tour France and Italy with Crystal. You can also send me a message or check out the show notes. Hey guys, my name's Crystal Kenny, and I'm in love with creating. All things artistic and imagination involved. I'm an American girl who chased her creative dreams all the way to Paris, France, making a living using photography. This podcast takes you inside the stories of all the artsy folks I've met along the way and gives you that extra push to discover your creative gifts. The desire to create is deeply inside each and every one of us, and I give you the tools and inspiration to find a new way of living a more creative life. This is La Vie Creative, the podcast. Today on the show, I interview Anton Bonnici. Anton is originally from Malta, but now calls Paris home. We talk all about playwriting, creative writing, and much more on this fascinating episode. So welcome to the show, Anton. How are you today?
I'm fine, thanks.
I'm very excited to chat with you today because I met you actually at a poetry reading a couple weeks ago. And then I got to know more about your work. And I always like to ask people where they're from and what brought them to Paris. So tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, yes. So I'm originally from the island of Malta, right below Italy. And I've been in Paris now since 2013. It was quite an impulsive decision. Like back then, we literally wanted to leave the island, and just because we wanted something, a fresh start, and we chose Paris. So it wasn't. It didn't take too long, and once arrived in Paris, then we started getting into life here. So it was quite impulsive overall as a decision, but life-changing.
I love that you're from Malta. I went there years ago, and they were some of the nicest people I've ever met in my travels. Literally, people would just take you and lead you wherever you needed to go. They're like, "What are you doing on our little rock?"
Yeah. That sounds familiar.
So you work in playwriting. You also teach creative writing. Talk a little bit more about your playwriting.
Well, it was always in me. I remember even back in secondary school when I was a teenager, I was always writing, a school play for the school talent show, and it was always something that I loved doing. Also, my father was in theater. My father was also a playwright back in Malta. Even though most of his work was in the 70s and the 80s, and I actually never saw it, but I did get to see the scripts. But I did get that from him. So I did get the theater bug from my father, and then from my teachers in Malta. But then for a long while I didn't pursue playwriting more seriously, and it kicked in again once I came to Paris. So once I came to Paris, after a year or so living in Paris, there was a call submission for a theater festival. Back then it was called the Montmartre d'Annecia, and they were calling for short scripts. And I said, well, I haven't written anything for the theater for so long. Why not? Let's try it out. So I did. And I met a lot of people like that, so I submitted the script. It wasn't chosen the first time around, but I was asked to, join up and meet people and see what was happening. And from then on, I was like, wow, there's people here that want new scripts and very interesting performers and very interesting directors, which gave me a lot of courage, and said, okay, let's do this. And I started writing more seriously. So since then, I haven't stopped.
I love that coming to Paris brought that back, because it sounds like it's kind of like a family business, and then coming here re-inspired that. And talk a little bit about your process, like when you're sitting down to write a play. What does that look like?
It's good that you say the word process. I really think of this as constant, ongoing procedure. It has different phases. There's always I draft a lot in notebooks before I type, and after I draft a lot in notebooks, then I start typing. And it over the past four, I dare say five, over the past 5 years, my process now has become much more stable. So the first three plays that I have already published, took me many years to finish. Different rewrites, different versions, going back to them. But the most recent stuff now, it's taking me around a year and a half to finish. And my process has become much clearer. So right now, I always have something that I am typing out and rewriting, and something else which I am drafting in notebooks. So I have always these two elements going, and I keep bouncing. From one thing to the next. It's impossible for me to just write one thing. My mind keeps wandering, and I get very inspired very easily. I just need to read something interesting, or remember something I read, or see an interesting story, or life subjects that I'm wondering about. So it's very easy for me to just sit down and start something new. I'm not afraid of that. I'm not afraid of something new things when something isn't finished, because I know that eventually you will go back. Eventually you will finish something. But I totally believe that you need to get it out of your head. You need to put it on paper. You need, if something is on your mind, it is blocking the way for other things to come to your mind. And if something is on your mind, doesn't mean that it's necessarily going to develop in your mind. It's better to, put some notes down, put some ideas down, and then, your mind will take care of it. You create space for your mind to find other things and do other things, and even develop what you already have. So for me, it's this process of getting things out of my head, putting them on paper, start giving them some shape. And then when something has enough momentum, I say, okay, this is ready to start, to become a scene, to start typing it out.
I love that you say kind of have to like get it out to get out of the way, really, because maybe that's not going to be, the main event or the main play, but you have to get it on paper so you can move on to the next thing.
Totally.
And how do you know when a work is finished?
Hard question. First of all, I always make sure that there's a number of rewrites. And I also do a couple of readings of something, so different versions. There's the first draft, which of course I never show anyone, and I tell people, don't show the first draft, even though sometimes I still make the mistake of showing the first draft to someone if I'm too excited about something. But yeah, the first draft, I always believe, don't show it to anyone. And then you get into your first serious rewrite. So I do believe that, especially in theater, which I think is not as lonely as other creative writing forms. In theater, it's important to bring people along and listen to your work from other people's mouths. It's when you have a good first rewrite. So you had your first draft, you gave it a couple of months, you rewrote it again, and now you're like, okay, now it's starting to achieve things I wanted to achieve. You give it to a couple of people and you hear them reading it out. It's you're writing for the stage. You are not writing for a silent reader. So it's important to just look at people reading it and see their reactions. See when they get stuck. See when they get excited. See when they laugh. See when they become serious, and you start realizing a lot of things about what you wrote. Because when you write for the stage, you are writing for others to be inspired to perform, and you are putting in there things that you don't even know you're putting in there. You are putting in there opportunities for these people to spring from, and it's important to start finding those. Somewhere in the middle of the process, it's important to sit down, see how other people react to it, and read it out, and make your own notes. And usually that gives me a lot of feedback for the next big rewrite. Which sometimes is very big. Sometimes, I don't know, I change acts, or even I change characters. Sometimes it's not that big. It depends on how I see people reacting, and also, like, what do they feel at the end of it? Do they feel satisfied with their character that they've just read? Would they like to know more? Would it, you get all this feedback from it, and then you go, you rewrite. At some point, though, you need to make a decision about what is this play about and what you wanted to achieve. For me, it's what are the questions you want questioned here? What are the problems you want questioned? And how much of it do you want answered? You can never answer all of it, but at least, how much of it do you want to really seriously engage with? For me, theater needs to put conversations on the table. A good work of theater needs to get people talking afterwards, discuss afterwards, to re-engage with their own lives. And you cannot do too much of that in one piece. I think many times our problem is not about doing too little, but it's about doing too much. We expect too much from a work of theater. We put in too many topics, too many ideas, too many, So I think I really feel something is finished when I hone it in, and I'm like, okay, now I really know what this is about, and I know what it's specifically, dealing with, and it's doing that. And I know that it's doing that, and I know that it's somewhat satisfying for these characters to do that with. And that's it. At some point, you let it go.
Yeah, it's kind of like taking a tornado of ideas, and it's like, okay, we finally have it honed into one thing of what is this actually about. And talk a little bit about the difference between writing for example, movies versus the stage. Like, what are some of the main differences when you're writing?
Well, I've read a lot of movie scripts, but I've never really written a full movie script, and the reason is because there's a completely different point of view. There's a completely different skill. For the stage, of course, everything has to happen on stage. It's all about, what the audience here in this present moment in time are seeing and are hearing. So for me, there's much more of a storytelling element on the stage, which is direct, which is, you are here to listen to these people talk to you, and to listen to these people to talk to each other. And that immanence, that moment there is very important. Whereas for me, cinema is much more about seeing things I have never seen before. For me, the fact that there's the camera can take us places that the stage cannot take us, visually speaking. So for me, a work of cinema needs to show me things that I haven't seen before, needs to take me places. And okay, of course, there is the people, there is the conversations, there is what they're saying, but that is always within a context, within a visual context that is very different on screen than it is on stage. When I see a work of cinema that doesn't show me some element of grandeur or doesn't take me somewhere that I've never seen before, I am, slightly disappointed, in the sense that I would be like, okay, I would have rather seen this on stage than seen this here. On the other hand, on stage, it's different. We're not on stage to go on outer space or see how people deal with with a live volcano. But we can listen to the people talking about how they did deal with it, and how their lives changed afterwards, and what were they looking for when they went somewhere. And that is what's important for the stage. For the stage, what's important is the human engagement, the human contact, really. We don't need to see all of it. In fact, most of it we don't get to see. And then what we do get to see becomes really special, because when you do get to see some magic on stage, unlike the cinema, it's a real moment of surprising spectacle, because most of it you cannot see, and you don't expect to see. So as soon as you do see something special, then it's like, wow, this is real wow. Whereas with the cinema, no, it's always special from the get-go.
And there's that moment of connection with the actors, having a live audience and really getting reactions out of them.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's where my work is going more and more. Like, my writing is putting aside story more and more, and fully and complete storytelling more and more for these experiences, these moments that live audiences can have with performers, and performers can have with live audiences. I'm moving more towards workshop almost experiences where the writing is not there as something finished. The writing is not there to just, to give a story for someone to perform and somebody else to just watch or hear. But the writing is more of a platform where both sides, both performers, theater makers, and audience members who are not who don't consider themselves professionals, maybe, can actually interact, can actually play more, can actually engage more with these topics on this page. That both sides have a lot to give to each other, and hopefully we can even dissolve this idea of the two sides.
I love that. Just breaking that. What do they call it? Like the third wall or
The fourth wall.
Yeah, the fourth wall.
Yeah, I want to remove the box entirely, not just one wall.
Exactly. And you recently developed the not theater theory. Tell us more about that.
That's it. This is it. So this is why it's not theater, right? In the sense that what I'm trying to work on, both in theory and practice, is this idea of removing the theater, removing all the formalities of the theater, breaking it down, so that there's a much more open experience. There's a much more creative even experience, where in a workshop one could read a text, discuss a text, and then use that text to inspire new reading. And the people present will also create and write their own interpretations, and write their own scenes, and write their own ideas down, and also then move into rereading and performing. So over in a full experimental, not theater workshop, you would have an audience which is made up of both theater professionals and theater enthusiasts, people that like theater and they're not theater makers. And they would be all together in the same experience, where together they read, they discuss, they understand, they bring their own life experience into it. Then they write, and they produce their own creative attempts at understanding this and then elaborating on it. And then they actually also play together physically. So you would have, the theater professionals helping and playing with non-professionals together over something which both of them are just reading first time today, and then create an actual performing experience, which once again is not something finished, but is something to create even more conversation, something that other people can watch and be included now in the process once again. It is something that I am developing, that I've been working on a variety of workshops. I've been testing out different aspects of it over the past 2 years, and I'm hoping to be able to give an entire session, which would be like, this would take around 2 full days. So you wouldn't come to just watch a show for 2 hours, but you would have a full 48-hour experience with a group of people, and hopefully have a completely different experience of theater, without the usual formalities of theater, without the usual box, without the usual divisions, or even without the usual necessity for particular skills if necessary, because it's more about sharing. So that's why it's not theater. There's definitely the theater there, but there's also definitely not any of the normal formalities that you would consider to find in the theater there.
I think it's such a great idea. I mean, it's bringing people together that can, exchange ideas, like a mind meld situation, but also get involved and get creative. It's so fun. And you've also been giving theater workshops committed to bringing about political change. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, because it is, you see, this whole aspect of not theater is intrinsically political, because it fights competition, first of all. It's all about how can we be creative and how can we have artistic experiences without competition, without any form of who's talking and who's listening, without the divide, without who's going to win the opportunity to be on stage and everybody else has to listen. My work comes follows and is very inspired from Bertolt Brecht, the work of Brecht and his theater, and the work of Augusto Boal, and the Theater of the Oppressed, and also Antonin Artaud. So those are my three pillars of theater theory that I'm constantly engaging with. I've been giving theater creative writing for the stage workshops, focusing a lot on how to write with Brechtian ideas and how to write for theater of the oppressed. So I've been doing those over the past years. When was it? Last February, I gave a really fun 2-day workshop to an anarchist organization in Amsterdam, where I gave a workshop on how to write short pieces that would inspire people to think about social political situations. So this follows forum theater by Augusto Boal. So you would have a very short 10-minute performance where 2-3 people are acting out a problem that they found in life. It could be a political problem, but something practical. Even something like, I don't know, being in a protest and police start beating you up, or being on or meeting somebody on a beach which is supposed to be environmentally protected, and this person is doing things on an environmentally protecting beach that they shouldn't be doing. And the scenes always end up badly. The scenes always end up, with a really bad ending. Sometimes tragic, sometimes not so tragic, but it's a bad ending. It's considered as, what we wouldn't wish would happen. And then the audience can interact. The audience can come back and say, wait, what if you do this instead? What if you say that instead? How would the scene happen? Can you defend yourself doing that? Or can you bring this into the scene? And you get the audience to come up and try out different alternatives of it. And the audience now is no longer just watching, but the audience is thinking and thinking through its own problems. It's empathizing with the situation and say, okay, this is a problem. How do we solve it? But let's try out different solutions to it live here in the place. And that's all, that's what forum theater by Augusto Boal does. And it's inherently extremely political because the theatrical space is being democratized. The theatrical space is no longer something for the elite. It's no longer something for the brilliant people who can show you and tell you something and you're just there listening. But the audience now is also an agent. The audience now is also a subject. It's no longer just a passive object. And that is, of course, the trajectory of my own work, right? Like where do I take it even further from there? Where do I take it even further from there? How do we democratize the space even more? How do we make this experience even more enriching for everybody, where everybody truly gets to engage with the artistic and even spiritual, to an extent, event that is happening between them.
Yeah, to have this interactive and, like you said, make it for everybody, I think makes much more of a difference and makes people more compelled to do something when they feel involved, when they're actually speaking to each other and, deciding outcomes and things like that. And what's something you wish that more people knew about playwriting?
Well, I think that on a very, very basic level, I simply wish that there are simply more playwriters. And I think that I wish that people understand how fun it is to write a play and perform it, and how you don't need to make a big event of it, how you don't need a theater, how you don't need, how you could even do it for fun at home with family or do it for fun with friends, how you can, write a short play and get your friends to read it with you and have a great night, drinking and laughing and reading out these lines on what happens and talking about it and talking, why did this character do this? Why did this character do that? I think that there is this beautiful element of theater, of bringing people together and getting them to experience different moments. That sometimes I feel is very much enshrouded in certain tradition, and it's enshrouded. There's almost sometimes this elitist twist to it. That this is for thespians, this is for the Shakespeare levels, this is for the theater makers that have this is for the professionals. And of course, I love the professional work. Of course, I love a great Shakespeare play. But it's not only that. It's not only that. You don't need any of that to have fun with theater and to have this experience together. and more people should be less afraid of trying it out and doing it. This is why, of course, I also focus on teaching creative writing specifically for the stage. You don't need to write a huge 3-act, 5-act, 2-hour work. You can write a 10-15 minute little scene that helps you say something to somebody and helps you understand how somebody else feels in the moment. Apart from being fun, it is also very therapeutic. It is also very effective. It helps us put on the page things that maybe we are afraid to say, or maybe we need a creative, imaginative, fictional setting to help us say certain things that we weren't able to say in real life, and then we actually get to say them. When you are writing something, first and foremost for the stage, you are putting words in people's mouths. So this is what I asked people that I teach, creative writing for the stage. The first thing I ask them is think, what do you want to hear said out loud? What are the words that you always said, I wish somebody says this. I wish that, somebody on stage says this and all these people hear it, and then we can react to it. What are those words? And theater gives it that opportunity, to say something maybe that is very hard to say in daily life.
Yeah, I love that. It's very true. And what you were saying about coming together and just like write a play together for fun, just act it out. I mean, that kind of makes me think of when my friends and me, we have like murder mystery parties, but it's already written for us, but it's just fun, you're just playing. It's all about play.
True, and it's people are realizing that even commercially people want it more. This is why we have much more immersive experiences today. We have much more role playing experiences today. We have much more even things like escape games and escape rooms and stuff like this. And there's much more immersion. Why? Because people are realizing that it is fun and people want it. People want this opportunity to step into something fantastic.
And how would you define creativity in your own words?
I think creativity is our ability to see new combinations, to see alternatives. We see the world in front of us the way it is, and then creatively we are able to pick that up and transform it and see something else and add to it or deduct from it or make a new combination, right? So I think that this ability to manipulate, to manipulate in an alternative, imaginative way what we have is an extremely important human quality, because it is what helps us build a future. It is what helps us see solutions to problems. It is what helps us even trying to understand, right? Even something scientific, science itself wouldn't exist without creativity. It wouldn't exist without somebody thinking, oh, what if this is what happens? Let's test for it. What if this is what's going on? Let's test for it. If that what if is creative, without that creative, imaginative moment of, what if this wasn't like that? What if it was something else? Then let's test for it and see if it is like that. But without that what if moment, you wouldn't have any discoveries at all.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And what are some of the best resources that have helped you on your creative journey?
Well, I read. So I think reading, first of all, if you want to write something, whether it's novels, poetry, or plays, read lots of it. So you want to write plays, then read lots of plays, get into what you like and understand why you like it. If there's a playwright you really love, then get into that playwright and say, okay, why do I really love this playwright? What's happening here? How is this person using words? How is this person using characters? And then read something completely different. Look at how other people use the medium, not necessarily the way you like it, but look at why. Why and how. How are they using this medium? How are they using the stage? For what reason? All right. So definitely get immersed in any way you can, in whatever it is, whatever form that you are writing for. So if you're writing for plays, yes, read a ton of plays and watch a ton of plays. It's important to do both. Some people just watch plays. I say, read it as well. Don't just watch a play, read it as well. I'm also a very big fan of plays simply for reading. Sometimes we cannot. It comes from the fact that I was Maltese, so I didn't have that much, stage to productions to watch growing up. So for me, it was a lot about reading and studying plays more than actually seeing them. It was only when I grew older that I could start watching, more plays by traveling, so on and so forth. And also, the Maltese teen started picking up a bit more. But read both the plays that you have seen produced, and then you read the scripts, and vice versa. For playwriting, especially, understanding that jump, how did something leap off from the page in one way to the stage in another? That is something very crucial, and it takes time to get. So just read for it. And also, there are so many people that, have written brilliant creative writing books. Just read. Don't stick to one formula ever. There are lots of formulas, and I'm not 100% against formulas. There are processes, there are formulas, there are methods. I have my own, and everyone finds, something that is comfortable for them. But don't stick to one. Keep reading. There are many different books out there. If you do, creative writing for the stage, creative writing for, for playwriting, there are so many brilliant books out there. Try them all. Try different ones. Try different exercises, and keep seeing, what works best for you.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. Like you said, try all different avenues, try different books. I mean, and I love that you said about just like reading a play. You don't have to see it, you can read as well. And where can people connect with you online? Do you do the Not Theater Theory online? Like, how can people connect with you and learn more about what you're doing?
Best thing is to follow me on Instagram, because that is where, I post a lot about upcoming works. And also take a look at my website and send me an email so that I could, put you on my mailing list. So I do have my website, which is writingforthestage.com. And from there is where I post, upcoming works. Right now, I'm also developing courses with the Paris Writers Collective, and there's going to be more information coming upon that on my website too. So there are definitely courses coming up in Paris, both live and also online. And following me on the website or finding me on Instagram are both great ways of staying in touch.
Wonderful. Well, we'll share all of that in the show notes, and make sure you guys follow along. Thank you so much for sharing your story today.
Thanks a lot. Thank you for this invitation. It was lovely.
Thanks so much for tuning in to La Vie Creative. You can find more information on MissParisPhoto.com. And if you enjoyed this show, please feel free to share and spread the word for all my creative guests. We have the power to help them to keep doing what they love. See you next time.